You mentioned the bloodshed that we'd expect to see on the ground. Do you expect that it would also put those Israeli hostages still there at even greater risk?
Yeah, we've been hearing now for 22 months of the fears of hostage families, but it's gotten more intense recently. They're in a miserable situation. Hamas is a horrible enemy, and it has no scruples. That we must acknowledge. It's a terrorist group, but also the conditions of constant bombardment mean that we suspect many of the hostages have lost their lives simply by being caught in bombardments. And any intensification of military operations now, whether through accidental or intentional impact, is going to imperil the safety of the hostages. And so many hostage families are saying, we don't really think the Prime Minister prioritises our hostages. He talks about them, but if he really prioritised them, he'd be doing things differently.
And we know those families have been putting immense pressure on Netanyahu. How shaky do you think the ground is for the Prime Minister politically? Is support fading broadly for him within Israel?
Yeah, actually, the social polling is pretty clear. He's way underwater in terms of net popularity, net negative popularity, particularly with younger Israelis. The Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu, is riding a tiger. He's scared of dismounting the tiger for fear of being eaten by the tiger. And you can sort of understand he's facing court cases. He's hanging on for political survival with an extreme right-wing, radical extremist government. Ministers like Ben-Gvir and Smotrich sort of really hold the keys for him, so he's giving in to them. One thing about Netanyahu, he's a very canny politician, a great survivor, but he's never been a great strategician. So in the absence of his own strategy, he gets pushed in the direction of those who are using leverage over him. And that's producing very tragic results for everyone at the moment.
And are we seeing any signs that Donald Trump is perhaps starting to run out of patience with Netanyahu as well?
Yeah, Donald Trump is an interesting character because, any simplistic assessment sort of misses some important truths. Clearly, Donald Trump is a very visual thinker. So when he sees television imagery in particular, he understands television very well. And the evidence suggests that when he sees emaciated, suffering children, he is genuinely moved by that and he cares about that. I mean, you wish he sort of thought about it more beforehand, but, at the moment, this seems to be getting through. And he does show signs of running out of patience with Netanyahu, just as he's running out of patience with Vladimir Putin on a different front. And that, opens the way for change because the key player in all of this, the key backer of this current Israeli government is America. And that was true under Biden, it's true under Trump. If America stops supplies of armaments within a week, operations begin to grind to a halt on the ground in Gaza and beyond. So, Trump is critically important. And, we sort of keep clutching at straws, hoping for change. But it is promising. I don't think we've seen him this year talk about suffering in Gaza the way he's been talking about it lately. And it's those television images that make the difference. And we can see why Netanyahu didn't want international journalists on the ground in Gaza, because now we're getting these images out. It does appear that it's breaking a dam, that American popular opinion, public opinion, including the president's opinion, is being swayed by these images.
And what about neighbouring countries? How would they be likely to react if we do see this expanded military offensive in Gaza?
Well, the whole backstory there, Ash, is that the extremists in this government want ethnic cleansing. They want to move, 2+ million people out of Gaza into where? Well, into Egypt, into Jordan. And of course, the neighbouring countries know full well if that happens, that they'll be blamed and they'll be stuck with the problem forever. There'll be no end to it. There are 7 million Palestinians in Gaza, the West Bank and Israel, 7 million Jewish Israelis. Most of them are not going to go anywhere. They have to find some way of living together that works for both groups. But the right-wing extremists in this government believe they can get rid of the 2 million in Gaza and perhaps the 7 million entirely. And of course, neighbouring countries say, well, the only way you can do that, it'll come at great human cost and abuse of rights, but also we will bear the burden. And you look at the number of Palestinian refugees in Lebanon, in Jordan, and beyond, and that's the lesson of history. So they're quietly fuming, but they're sort of careful about what they say in public.
Professor Greg Barton, I appreciate your insights. Thank you.